This is lesson 8-3, all about special right triangles. And in this whole lesson, we're only focusing on two types of special right triangles, a 45, 45, 90 triangle and a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So these are the two we're focusing on, and we're going to start with a 45, 45, 90. So for a 45, 45, 90 degree triangle, there's always a specific relationship between the length of the sides. So we're going to start off looking at that. Here is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, right? And so if two of the angles are 45 degrees, that means this is an isosceles triangle. And there's always a relationship between an angle of a triangle and the side across from it, right? So if this angle is 45 and the side across from it is a length of x, and this angle is 45, then the length of the side across from it also will be x, because there's a relationship here, right? So both of these sides are, let's just call it x. So how do I know what the hypotenuse is? Well, they did a little bit of math here, right? So this is a right triangle, so we call one side A. We call the other side, oops, I don't know why I did parentheses, B. And then the hypotenuse we always call C, right? So we can do A squared plus B squared equals C squared in a right triangle. So think of it this way. Okay, it also tells us here that since it's a 45, 45, 90, A and B are equal. And we're going to call A and B, we're going to say they have a length of x, right? So A is equal to B, and they're both equal to x. All right, so that's what it's telling us here. A and B are the same size, and that size for right now is x. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. In other words, x squared plus x squared equals C squared. And 1x squared plus 1x squared equals 2x squared. And I don't want to know what C squared is. I want to know what C is. That's what I'm solving for. So I'm going to have to take the square root, right, of this and of this. So when I take the square root of C squared, they just cancel each other out and I get C. When I take the square root of this guy, I actually separate it, right? My rules of radicals tell me that I can separate the factors. This is 2 times x squared. So I'm going to give each of them their own radical. 2 times, and I give this one its own radical, x squared, right? We went over that in the last video. That's one of the properties of radicals, that you can separate the factors into their own radical sign. So now I can't do anything with this guy, but here, this is square root of x squared. Anything with the little squared symbol, it cancels with the radical. So this is just x, right? So this is square root of 2 times x, or x squared of 2. So whenever the side lengths of a 45, 45, 90 are each x, the hypotenuse is always x square root of 2. That's the relationship between all the sides of a 45, 45, 90. The two legs are the same size, and then whatever the leg is, you multiply it by the square root of 2 to get the hypotenuse. I know that sounds random, but that's what we're going to do every single time. So let's do an example here. It tells us, let me zoom out a little bit, that in a 45, 45, 90 right triangle, the hypotenuse is square root of 2 times the leg. That's what we just said. If the hypotenuse is 6 units, find the length of each leg. So here's my triangle. I've got my leg, and my hypotenuse. Now remember what I just said. We're looking for the length of the leg. I don't know what it is, but I know whatever it is, I multiplied it times the square root of 2 to get this number, right? So if I wanted to go backwards and get the leg, I have to undo what I just did. So instead of taking x times the square root of 2 to get this, I'm going to start with this and divide by the square root of 2 to get x, right? So 6 divided by square root of 2 equals x. And of course, in my properties of radicals, I can't leave a radical on the bottom of my answer, right? So we come over here. They've already done the work for us. So I have this guy. I can't leave the radical sign on the bottom. So to get rid of a radical, I have to square the whole thing, right? And how do you get something squared? You multiply it by itself. So I multiply the bottom by square root of 2 And to keep the fraction the same ratio, whatever I do to the bottom, I got to do the same thing to the top. Top times square root of 2. So that's what they've done in this step. Multiply the bottom, multiply the top. And then when they do that, this becomes 6 square root of 2 over square root of 2 squared, right? And this little squared and this little square root cancel each other out. So this actually goes away. This little sign is not supposed to be there. So it's 6 times the square root of 2 over 2. Can I simplify this anymore? Yeah, I can actually separate it into 6 over 2 times square root of 2 over 1. Because when you multiply fractions, straight across the top, straight across the bottom, 6 times the square root of 2 gives us this, and 2 times 1 gives us the bottom, 2. It's supposed to be a plain 2. Okay, so this is just fine. I can't simplify this, but I can simplify this. It just becomes 3. So I end up with 3 times the square root of 2. That's how they got this guy right here. 3 times the square root of 2. So whatever the leg is, multiply it by the square root of 2 to get the hypotenuse. If you have the hypotenuse and you're looking for a leg, then divide by the square root of 2. Okay, should be easy to figure out as long as you remember the relationship between the sides. So x, and then whatever the leg is, x times the square root of 2. All right, so let's do a few of these. There are 6 of these, and then we have 3 additional word problems. We can handle that. All right, so number 1, we have a 45, 45, 90. We know the leg is 8, so this leg has to be 8, and to get the hypotenuse, I multiply the leg by the square root of 2. So 8 times the square root of 2. Done. That's it. X equals 8 times the square root of 2. Finished. Number 2. Here's a 45 degree. Here's a 45 degree. And here's a 90 degree, right? So this is our hypotenuse. I don't know what the leg is, but I know whatever it is times the square root of 2 gives me this. So if I want to go backwards, I got to divide this by the square root of 2. So 3 square root of 2 divided by square root of 2 leaves me with, these cancel, just 3. So x equals 3. The leg equals 3, which is kind of easy to see now, right? Like, what times the square root of 2 equals 3 times the square root of 2? 3. Number 3, another 45. All these are 45, 45, 90, 45. I know my legs are each 4. And my hypotenuse, which is always across from the 90 degree, is the leg times the square root of 2. 4 times square root of 2. Done. Easy, right? Just take the leg, multiply it by square root of 2, and you get the hypotenuse. Number 4, I've got my 2 legs. Since the legs are equal, that means these 2 angles are equal. If this is 90, and all 3 add up to 180, 90 plus what equals 180? 90. And if I know they're both the same, then 90 divided by 2 is 45. So 45 degrees, 45 degrees. To get the hypotenuse, I took the leg and multiplied by square root of 2. Okay, so to go backwards, I need to divide this by the square root of 2. So 18 divided by the square root of 2. And then to get rid of the radical on the bottom, I multiply it by square root of 2, and I multiply the top. So this gives me 18 square root of 2 over square root of 2 times square root of 2, square root of 2 squared, which is just 2. That's the whole reason why we multiplied it together. These square roots cancel, and we're just left with what's underneath them, which is 2. This cancels with this. Okay, and then can I divide 18 by 2? Yes, I can. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So my answer is 9 square root of 2. And if I multiply 9 square root of 2 by the square root of 2, this is a leg. So this times the square root of 2. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 is just 2. And 9 times 2 is 18. So that makes sense. Number 5. Here I have the hypotenuse. And I'm looking for the leg. Hypotenuse is 16. I know I took the leg and multiplied it by square root of 2 to get 16. So I'm going to divide by the square root of 2 to find the leg, right? So 16 divided by square root of 2. And I can't leave a radical on the bottom, so I got to multiply it by square root of 2 and do the same thing to the top. So that gives me 16 square root of 2 on top. And square root of 2 times square root of 2 is square root of 2 squared. The squared and the square root cancel each other out, and I'm left with 2 on the bottom. And then I can divide 16 by 2, and I just get 8. 16 divided by 2 is 8 times the square root of 2. So x equals 8 square root of 2. I hope this is making sense okay to you. All right, last one, number 6. Here's my hypotenuse, here's my leg. It's a 45, 45, 90. Both legs are the same. And I took the leg, I multiplied it by square root of 2, and I got the hypotenuse. So to find the leg, I'm going to divide by square root of 2. 24 square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2. These cancel, and I'm just left with 24. So a leg is 24 units. Easy peasy. I did show a lot of work. Take note, I did show quite a bit of work here. So make sure you're showing that. All right, number 7. If a 45, 45, 90 triangle has a hypotenuse of 12, find the leg length. Remember, when I know the hypotenuse and I want to find the leg, I have to divide by the square root of 2. So 12 divided by square root of 2. And then I have to multiply the top and the bottom. And this becomes 12 square root of 2 over this squared just becomes 2. The square roots cancel, and I'm left with just the base. And then I can divide 12 by 2 and get 6. So one leg is 6 times the square root of 2. And then if I multiply that times the square root of 2, I get 6 times square root of 2 times square root of 2, which is 6 times the square root of 2 squared, which is 6 times 2, which is 12. And that's what I started with, so that works. Number 8, determine the length of the leg of a 45, 45, 90 with a hypotenuse of 25 inches. Same exact thing. I don't know the leg, and to get the hypotenuse, I had to multiply the leg by square root of 2. So to go backwards to the leg, I have to divide the hypotenuse by square root of 2. 25 divided by, then I multiply the top and the bottom by square root of 2. 25 square root of 2 over 2. And this is an improper fraction here. So 2 goes into 25 12 times with 1 left over. So 1 times the square root of 2 over 2. So my answer here is just 12 times the square root of 2 over 2. That's the length of a leg. Okay, and then last one, number 9 here. Find the length of the hypotenuse if a leg is 14 centimeters. Well, if I know the leg, which is the shorter side, is 14 centimeters, both legs are the same, all I got to do to find the hypotenuse is multiply the leg times the square root of 2. So that's the hypotenuse. Okay, so that's everything you need to know about 45, 45, 90, the relationship between the two legs and the hypotenuse. Each leg is x, and then you multiply that by square root of 2 to get the hypotenuse. If you know the hypotenuse and you want to find the leg, you divide this by square root of 2. Let me know if you have questions.